Okay, part two. Going corporate side, Jonathan Whitehead. Now I'm going back to family court divorce modification side that Stephanie Jones is handling. And we get the modification, the mandatory exchange documents, and then after that, it's pretty much open game. And I'm thinking, okay, let's subpoena, let's do this. And she won't subpoena the records. We actually do like no discovery whatsoever. It's no request for production of documents. She subpoenas the bank records or bank loan information. And I finally, I'm like, you have to subpoena something. She subpoenas for the bank loans, and then she puts the wrong social security number on all of them. And then I'm like, okay, well, what about the bank records? And she was like, she basically says, I'm not going to risk my career for these bank records. I'm dumbfounded. What do you mean? This is a standard procedure in any divorce, any modification. I am now actually asking people, how did you do your modification? And they're like, yeah, they subpoenaed for the past 2 years, 3 years, up to 4 years of records. And she wouldn't subpoena a single bank record. I'm like, what is going on? I'm now getting suspicious. Something is happening. I feel like I am being played. I feel like I am being manipulated in some way by my attorneys. My hair is all over the place. And then around this time, I would say, oh gosh, I didn't even know it exactly when it all hit me. The guy that was helping me was one of the guys I found out was an FBI agent. I'm going to explain more on that next, but I'm freaking out. I'm like, okay, I don't know who I can trust again. This attorney that he recommended, which is clearly steering me in the wrong direction. I'm like, okay, he's obviously not somebody I can trust. So I cut ties with him. I go to a different corporate attorney, Sarah Stock Legal. I come to her. She's like, okay, let's, show us everything you've got. And I'm literally just pouring everything out on the table. And I'm like, I actually have evidence of money laundering. At this point, this is in April, May, and then April 3rd was when I sent the report to FinCEN. And I'm like, crazy things are going on here. And they basically lied to me, an investor in their fund. And they were like, oh, well, this is big. This is securities fraud. We need to get in touch with the SEC. I'm like, wow, that would have been nice to know 3 or 4 months ago with Jonathan, but no. And immediately, they're like, okay. I think the next day, I signed with them. Corey Stewart was their corporate litigator, and she contacts the Missouri Securities Division, gets all this information, contacts me. She was like, yes. She was like, they, want, we can file a report with them, a complaint, and then they can also do their own research into this. She's like, we can crack this wide open really fast. And so I'm like, okay, good. I've got some real help. We're going in the right direction. This is securities fraud. That's big stuff. This is where lawsuits are in the millions. You hear about terms of securities fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and it's big. bad, very bad. Like Bernie Madoff, Jordan Belfort, all of these guys. And about a month into their work and what they're doing, they tell me, maybe not even that, 2 or 3 weeks, they're like, hey, we've hired a new guy. He's going to be taking your case. His name's Todd Lubin. Really competent, came from Brown and James or something. And okay, great. We meet. And I'm like, this is where I think it needs to go. And I go, we need to find more information about like Derek Frost and his role, because he's the registered investment advisor. Like he's basically the one who holds all of the responsibility of the fund. He's the one that's required by law to report and like say what's going on and all these things to has the license. And Todd, he's like, well, I don't know, we need to go that route yet. Let's just go after Mike. I feel like Mike is the one, doing the bad things. And I'm like, I don't think so. You can, start digging, but it just, I just disagreed. And it basically becomes this battle where Todd wants to go after just Mike. He doesn't even want to go after Profusion. He doesn't want to go after Derek. He doesn't want to go after the fund. I'm like, you're going after a minnow when you have this big fish that we can file a lawsuit against. It didn't make sense. Again, none of this makes sense. So I set up my own meeting with Derek on May 23rd of 2023. I'm like, hey, Derek, I have these investments. I signed the subscription agreements with you, even though you guys are saying I'm not in the fund. I'd like to meet with you about them. He agrees. We meet. And this really kind of opens Pandora's box with all of this. And luckily I recorded the conversation. It was an impulse instinct. He was literally walking down the hall, and I grabbed my phone, I hit record, and he didn't know it was being recorded, but thank God I did. Because it's in this moment that I find out he's not registered with the SEC. He's registered to invest in specific states, but I think he's only registered in like 4 different states. And knowing what I know about Profusion, I know that they have invested in many other states across the US, and he's not registered in those. And I asked why, and he's like, oh, I'm going to do it. He's like, it's coming. I just haven't gotten around to doing it.